Saudis all of a sudden, well, we can't say this now.
You don't try and play whataboutery?
See?
I just saw your interview with Ben Shapiro where it was nothing but whataboutism, and I'm not here to BS your audience or gaslight anyone. There was a registered Republican, a white male, who tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Unfortunately, also there was a person who was killed, a father, and there were 2 people who were critically injured. And Donald Trump, ever since he descended the escalators 9 years ago and ascended to power for 9 years, has stoked the ultra-violence. I remember at his protest, he used to openly say, knock the crap out of him, I'll pay for your legal bills. This is the same people who's called the press, people like us, people like you, Pierre's enemy of the people. And as such, for the past 9 years, multiple cases where his followers have tried to commit violence against law enforcement, the press, poll workers. This is the same man who said, as of this campaign, I want to be dictator for a day. Last week, he praised the January 6th violent insurrectionists, called them hostages. He incited a violent insurrection. When those insurrectionists came to the Capitol with violence, some of them came to assassinate Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence, his former vice president. You know what he said? Yeah, they're onto something. He encouraged them to kill Mike Pence, his former vice president. 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump posted that he wants televised military tribunals for Liz Cheney, who used to be the #3 Republican, and also the head of Heritage Foundation, who has released Trump's Project 2025 2 weeks ago, Pierce, said that we're in the process of a second American revolution, and it will be bloodless unless the left allows it to be. This is what we're dealing with. It is a toxic environment which has been stoked by Trump's embrace of the ultra-violence and violent rhetoric. And yesterday, Nancy Pelosi, her husband Paul Pelosi, folks, for those who don't know, another far-right nut, tried to assassinate her. He opened the door. He took a hammer to her head. He survived an assassination attempt. Do you know what MAGA and Trump did? They mocked him, ridiculed him, promoted conspiracy theories, and then Trump joked about it with the public. Nancy Pelosi yesterday, regardless of what you think about their politics, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and President Biden wished Trump well. They wished peace. They de-escalated the situation. And all of a sudden, we have whataboutism from the right wing. And I want to say one last thing about the right wing. Mitt Romney was the 2012 Republican presidential candidate. Do you know what Mitt Romney said? Openly admitted, he has to pay $5,000 a month for security for his family. He said Republicans in office right now are also terrified for their life. You know who they're terrified from? MAGA Republicans. This is what has happened. We cannot normalize this.
Okay.
We cannot normalize this nonsense.
Before I go to
Hang on.
hang on. Let me get
scholars of fascism.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's fine. You mentioned fascism. I just played a montage of endless people on the left calling Trump Hitler. Now, to me,
so
it is
J.D.
an
Vance.
utterly ridiculous comparison. Adolf Hitler and the Nazis murdered 12 million people, 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. There is no comparison to be made by...
Okay, Hitler murdered 6 million Jews. Also, 20 million Russians got killed. 4 million Bengalis died from famine because Churchill and Britain stole the rice harvest to give it to the war effort and starved 4 million people to death. 12 million Germans got killed. I don't know how many Polish, how many French, how many American. Why do you always just give him credit for one thing? If you're going to give a guy credit, give him credit for everything. You understand? That's on his resume. We can't say, oh, he killed 6 million. Yeah, he did that, but he also caused the destruction of his country, the murder, the killing of 20 million Russians. And the Bengalis got it too. They starved to death because they took away the rice. Why we always do that? Isn't he?
Any sane mind between them, Adolf Hitler, the Nazis, and Donald Trump. And I can imagine how impressionable minds, if they keep being told someone is Hitler, start to believe they might have a moral justification in killing such a person. Why wouldn't you if you genuinely think this man is Hitler? Would you like the left now to stop calling him Hitler? Do you think it's time to stop doing that?
I don't know if...
By the way, his vice president pick also called him Hitler. Just to remind you that everybody's calling him that.
The left is, but I know that the most sober scholars of fascism, including Timothy Snyder, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, and others who have studied the rise of fascism in Europe, the rise of Mussolini, the rise of Nazism, have talked about how MAGA and Trump resemble the rise of authoritarianism. Furthermore, I want to tell people that Trump himself said he will be a dictator for a day. And 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court said the president has, quote, absolute immunity for official acts
So
done.
you don't think it's a problem calling him
2025.
Hitler? You don't think it's a problem calling him Hitler?
Who called him Hitler? They're talking. And also, who
called him
quotes
Hitler? Okay.
He literally quotes Hitler's language.
Do you want me to?
He
go?
literally quotes. Wait.
No, do you want me to play
He literally
again the
quotes
minute? I
Hitler's
just literally
language.
played a minute-long mashup.
I know.
Of people on the left
heard it. I
literally
heard it
calling
all.
him Hitler. And my question for you, Wajah, is: I think it's incredibly stupid and inaccurate and wrong and inflammatory and dangerous to keep calling an American politician the new Adolf Hitler when he isn't. And my question to you is: do you agree with me?
I believe calling him Hitler when you said that Hitler did all those, the genocide. Yeah, they're not talking about that. They're talking about the pathway towards dictatorship where the pro-democracy coalition bent the knee in advance like you are doing, unfortunately, and they're talking about the rise of fascism. Also, speaking about Hitler, the language of Hitler, sadly, he uses vermin, poisoning the blood, Third Reich. He uses that language, unfortunately. So when he uses Hitlerian language...
Okay, but what about Joe Biden?
Joe Biden does not use Hitler's language.
I'm about to read you something Joe Biden said only last week. This is what he told potential donors.
Sure.
It's time to put a bullseye on Trump.
Yes, I've heard that. And guess what? You know how that was represented? In the Detroit rally. I saw that. I saw the speech. There is an election happening right now. He talked about putting the focus on Trump and Trump's rhetoric. And then you know what happened? He went to the rally. I heard the speech. No violent insurrection. No dictatorship for a day. He talked about Trump's rhetoric.
So you don't have a problem. You don't have a problem. Okay. So you don't have a problem with the current Democrat president of the United States saying it's time to put a bullseye on Trump, his political opponent.
Because
given that literally within days of him saying it, somebody put a bullseye on Trump and tried to assassinate him.
Within days of him saying that and literally campaigning against Trump, a registered Republican male, yes, tried to assassinate Trump. It was not liberals.
Well, it's also been reported he donated to Joe Biden. We don't know yet the motivation.
No, he did not.
Well, we don't know enough about him to make an assessment. All I'm saying is, if the President of the United States says it's time to put a bullseye on Trump... But we do know he's a registered Republican. Well, I'm just saying, it was literally several days gap between the president saying it's time to put a bullseye on Trump and that being widely reported and somebody putting a bullseye on Trump. So when it comes to dangerous language and rhetoric, I actually think both sides are culpable, but Joe Biden and you apparently, on his behalf, do not see any reason to dial it down on your side.
I refuse to accept this nonsense bullshit both sides framing when literally yesterday the entire Democratic leadership de-escalated the situation and they're not even campaigning right now. And literally last week, Donald Trump praised the January 6th violent insurrectionists as peaceful hostages. And 2 weeks ago asked for a military tribunal. And for 9 years has stoked violence against all the groups that I've mentioned, which is why law enforcement has said there has been a rise in stochastic terrorism. Stochastic terrorism is specific targeted violence against individuals and groups incited by public rhetoric. There have been more than 70 cases of Trump's MAGA followers attacking literally all of his critics, including media, poll workers, law enforcement, elected officials, people like Paul Pelosi. He has stoked this political violence for 9 years, and you have normalized it.
All right.
I have not. Okay. I condemn it.
Okay.
I condemn all of it.
Okay. So, and what were your personal feelings when you heard Trump had been shot?
It was, I was on a WhatsApp group and someone said he's been shot. I'm like, no way. And I immediately checked the video. I'm like, oh my God. And then he got up and I'm like, thank God, because I agree with what everyone said. It would have been disastrous for everyone. I mean, a political assassination. And then I thought nobody else was killed. Later on, I found out that the father tried to protect his family. He was killed. And then 2 individuals were critically wounded. And then the shooter was also killed. So it's one of those situations of exile and relief because, again, political violence has no place. There should be a way where you should look at the record and the rhetorics and the policies, and that should be enough, in my opinion, to show you that Trump is not fit. But thankfully, the leadership right now, regardless of what you say about Biden and everyone else, they really de-escalated yesterday, and I'm glad they did. That is sober, responsible leadership.
Right,
can you imagine, Piers, God forbid, if the situation was reversed, what Trump would say? We know. We know the violent insurrection. We know who he is.
All right, let me bring in Emily. You've been waiting patiently. Your response.
Thank you, Emily, for waiting patiently.
First of all, yeah, I'd like to say that, first of all, as a Jewish person, there's no such thing as contextualizing what they meant when you compare compared Donald Trump to Hitler. You can't say, oh, he's the KKK, but minus the part where they hunted down African Americans. There's no such thing. But here's the problem with society, and if I'm being honest, you are part of the problem. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. You cannot justify the violence because Pierce asked a very head-on question, is this wrong or whatever it was, and you spent the last 10 minutes trying to explain the other side, but then say you don't believe in two sides. Political violence is wrong, and I'm glad to hear you condemn that, but by you trying to make the argument that Trump, because he's XYZ, you almost made it seem like you understood why it could be justified and then looked for all these reasons that are completely invalid. You are part of the problem because we live in a society where if you don't like a person, we try to delegitimize everything they say. We invalidate the things that they say. We come up with outrageous accusations, and then we dehumanize them. And do you know who dehumanized groups of people? Hitler did. So the Democrats are actually taking a page right out of Hitler's playbook and then have the audacity to make the Hitler comparison to Trump, which I just find ironic.
Rob, I want to bring you in here. I talked to you about the security aspect of this, but just as an American hero who served his country with great valor and heroism, as I said, with
Oh, I'm talking to a mic.
Navy SEAL team.
I've been talking to a mic that's been muted.
What do you feel about what is going on with your country?
What an idiot I am.
In light of what happened at the weekend.
Here we go.